Okay, so
I don't Skype very much, so I'm not very good at it, but I think we're okay now.
excellent. So I'll just give you a bit of background. So we're doing this project where we're designing little wooden CO2 cars.
Yeah, I saw them online. That's really cool.
So the kids have 8 questions they were going to ask you just about your profession, which is CO2 drag racing. Or no, not CO2, sorry.
Nitro drag racing. Yes.
So here's our first person with a question.
Okay.
So what are the dangers of drag racing?
Well, the car that I drove was 300 miles and went over 300 miles an hour. So from a dead stop to, does it sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay. From a dead stop to 300 miles an hour, and then we would travel to that speed in about less than 4 seconds. So if you could imagine being at a dead stop and then in less than a second you're going 100 miles an hour. There's a lot of parts and pieces on the car. Obviously, it's a miracle that our cars can even do that. And so, I mean, there can be parts malfunctions. One time I was going 300 miles an hour and a tire blew up. And my car, I don't know if you guys can probably see it on YouTube, but it went into 1,000 pieces. And thankfully I was okay. I walked away from it. But there's just, that's the risks that you take in driving, and it's the love. You do it for the love, and they're building safety equipment very well these days. I think there's been a lot of accident. There's a good amount of accidents still, but more drivers walk away every time as they are able to develop safer and safer safety equipment. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So how much does the size of the car affect the speed it goes?
The size affects it a lot because obviously the heavier you make it, the slower it goes, and that's why I think drivers are getting smaller and smaller these days because the crew chiefs they don't want to add weight to the car. And where the driver sits right in the middle, that's actually where you want it to be the lightest, so the car flexes. So sometimes they'll put weight in the front end or shift the motor around in the back end, depending on what the crew chiefs want. But you definitely have to keep it as light as possible. And we have a minimum weight though. It can't weigh less than a certain amount. Actually, after every run, we have to go across the scales. And the car has to be, all the top fuel dragsters are the same size. They try to play with the wing angle, and even now we're required to have our wings at certain angles, and they really check it so that, because people can find little advantages here and there, and the crew chiefs do that because that's their job, to go faster. But, it's all about, weight and the shape of it. It really affects it, and that's why they always trying to tweak things, and then that's when our NHRA, the governing body, has to come in and say, no, you can't do that. So.
Thank you.
Hi. So do you design your cars?
Do I personally?
Yeah.
No, I do not. This last team that I was on, both teams that I was on, I went to where the chassis builder makes the car, and they basically had it already done, and then I could just design where I sit. I could tell them, I want the steering wheel right here, I want the throttle pedal here, the clutch pedal. They make it fit me so that I can just, even if, I know where everything is without having to think about it, and I could get to the brake handle, which is my hand, not my foot, like most, cars. But we hire a chassis to build it for us. And then the crew chiefs will tweak things to try to get more speed, just make it perform better.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
When you test a drag racing car, what are the key things you want to look out for?
I'm sorry, what are